All right, so we are here. Russ and Sophia are live as we start, and this is week number 6 of our 7-week Prosperity Plus program, the program that will not end by the calendar. I have to say I was a little bit more than a little bit embarrassed when I went, oh, I can't believe I did that, when I realized that cruise was actually 2 weeks, not a week. It's 11 days, in fact. And I'm very, very grateful to my husband for booking that. And I'm very much looking forward to being on it. But I was so worried about the 15th that I totally missed 22nd. We were also still going to be at sea. So
I don't know, totally irresponsible. What can I say?
I am 100% responsible for missing that date.
I'm glad you're able to go out and enjoy.
Yeah. And we are right now in Lafayette, Louisiana. We've been on the road in our travel trailer camper for 5 nights. Tonight's night number 6. And so far we still like each other, and so far we're still married.
I was just going to say, yeah. Congratulations.
Rob's sitting right here, so he's getting some prosperity tonight too. So
I'm looking at the names of some good lawyers.
He said he's looking at the names of some good lawyers. Russ is cracking up. That's funny, except it kind of, anyway, he posted this post this morning that was said basically, I can't remember how it started, but basically it was like relationship is all about, relationship is like something about backing up a trailer, and it was like hilarious, so I had to share it as well.
And there you are, yes.
True test.
It's a true test of relationship. And we haven't back up yet, so we're still in practice mode. At any rate.
At least you've traveled together.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm having a hard time getting over it. Yes.
So.
Nadia's coming in. Janelle's coming in. Simona is unavailable to be with us tonight, so we're holding space for her, and she's also keeping up with the course, so that's awesome. Sally and Leila hopefully will both be here momentarily. But we'll start with prayer.
Okay.
So take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, let any outer distractions, whether it's in your realm or mine, just simply step away, just simply take a back seat to the full presence and the full power of this now moment. We embrace and open the space. For this group, we've had a 2-week break. We've had Christmas, we've had New Year's. Now we're jumping back in together. So we really lean into the container for the continuity. Even as we take break in the physical calendar, we know that there is no time and space in spirit, that the energy that we've been creating for the past 5 weeks continues. And all we have to do is to tap back into it, to lean back into it. So we lean in right now to week number 6.
Daddy, help you.
Talking about 2 more laws. Lean into where you were when we started and where you are now with your finances, with your health, with your relationships, with your time and money freedom. Lean into where you want to be at the end of this course. Notice where the gap is, and just notice it. And know that we can close that gap with a single practice, with a single opening, in a single breath. And so we open ourselves to tonight's material, and we give thanks for this time together. And so it is, and so we begin. All right, awesome. Leila, Sally, awesome. We're all here. So I'm not able to hear you all very well based on talking to Sophia a moment ago. But I'm going to try. I would love just a sentence or two from each of you. Check in about where you are in regards to Prosperity Plus, in regards to working the material, in regards to leaning into living the life you love, even knowing what you love, anything that we've covered up till now. Hey, Janelle, you made it in too. So awesome. So who wants to just share? And we're going to keep it just brief. And I will say again that I'm in a public place. I'm in a McDonald's. It was my third choice for where I could do my class tonight. It's the best we could do with the two that fell through. So if it's a little distracting, I apologize. Hopefully we'll be able to really focus and you'll all be able to hear just fine. So, Sophia, you're still unmuted. Just a brief check-in. How are you doing?
Well, that'll teach me, won't it? I am behind, and what I discovered is I'm missing one of the recordings, so I have to go back and find the original download information, etc. And I'll be blunt. One of my frustrations is I need the CDs because I play them in my car. So all of this has required me to, and this is going to sound like excuses. It's required me to, figure out new technology when I'm learning others. So I've been frustrated with this approach, and I'd rather have the CDs at least. But I'll figure it out because I can. As far as stepping into prosperity, I think I've been doing a lot of laying the foundation. I'm a bit behind in the homework. And I feel that tension that's there before something, before the breakthrough. So that's where I'm at now. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, good.
Retract you. Somebody can help you download those audios onto your phone so you can listen to them in your car.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to reach Colleen. You might be able to get a hold of the CDs.
Yeah, I know how to find her. Okay, good. And I'll go ahead and mute myself now, but I'll plug in whenever you want me because I'm here for
Awesome.
You. Okay, thanks.
All right, and Leila.
Hi, everybody. So, working retail at the holidays is extremely stressful and full and busy. So, I still have not downloaded because I haven't found the place to download any of it. And I know you guys told me to look at a different place, and then I got busy and I couldn't. I have done the prosperity classes in the past, so I keep trying to work on those things that I've already been taught. And the holidays were very hard for me this year in a lot of ways. One of them being my work, and to where I was so angry I had to take a week off just to calm down before I even spoke to anybody about work. So yesterday was my first day back, and I don't think I took long enough off, and so I just need to regroup, get myself back in the right place, and calm down and do it the right way. There is a right way.
Well, there's
Anyways, hi.
I'm glad you're here tonight.
Me too. Needed it.
And you need to just find the email that came from Mary that got you registered to this course.
I don't remember ever seeing one.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it's not there. I just don't remember ever seeing one. But
Right.
I can go Google search all of Mary's things and see if that one's something I just didn't.
I can also get you the, you can just go right to customer care and just tell them you can't find it, they'll resend it. So
I'll figure it out.
Awesome. So take a breath. And here you are. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here.
Sally?
Hi, it's good to be back. It's been, wow, I relate to both of those shares about Christmas being more challenging than expected, more full. I had a lot of responsibility, and I'm feeling kind of, what do I say? I'm feeling excited about this particular night of prosperity. So I'm glad you're here, Eliza. And everybody, I'm so amazed how you can do this in a McDonald's.
Well, we'll see.
I would never even imagine, this is gonna work. So it's gonna work because we'll all put our heads together and focus. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Mary has to say tonight. What I did over the holidays is I reviewed a lot of notes that I've written in the past, like 2010 through 2019. So literally did a kind of 9-year life review and did a shuffle and prioritize and notice the threads that are important for me to begin weaving into now. So I did a lot of my own kind of creative personal work when I had the time. We also had a lot of family here, and it's always bigger production than it needs to be, and part of that is my mother's generation, and she kind of sets the tone for how it is. And I go with it in the name of tradition. So that's off topic, but it's relevant to how I feel about my performance in regard to this work.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I did the best I could.
Awesome. Thanks, Sally. Russ.
I just, as I think about keeping my focus on what we're doing in this class, I can look at this past week as a great example of somewhere I've heard sometime of something about thoughts held in mind, produce after their kind, that kind of idea, that the more I hold on to the idea of prosperity and abundance, the more I keep getting that reinforced. So I keep finding books. I stumble across books on my own shelves. I opened up old notes and it's a whole section on prosperity. I'll open up a journal and I've written a section on prosperity. It's like it just keeps coming into my face. So to me, it's just continuing to reinforce and support the positive side of that than the other side that I haven't supported in the past.
Awesome. It's always fun, isn't it? And we'll do Janelle and then we'll go to Nadia.
That's the street, Mormon Street. So if you're coming from the super, from the station,
something interesting that me, well, in the past, my daughter told me about a movie on minimalism. And so something that I've started to just is abundance, but also along with what not just about having a lot, but like
and I had a real hard time hearing you. So did everybody hear her? Russ, I can see you. Could you hear her? So I know that you were heard. And if you could just lean in a little bit more to the phone. I know I have a lot of background noise, so I'm having a hard time hearing. But I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we've connected too. Awesome. Thanks, Janelle. And Nadia, let's see if we can hear you.
All right, any questions?
I'm not able to hear you at all, Nadia. So I apologize. If you're able, anybody, you can just feel free to type in the chat because we can see the chat. So tonight is 2 laws in the book. If you're reading the book, read the 2 laws, the laws of forgiveness and the laws of sacrifice. And really, the law of sacrifice is really about, are you willing to let go of the good for the greater good? So anything we hear the law, we hear like forgiveness and sacrifice, and we go, wow, what is that, right? But sacrifice is letting go of the good for a greater good. So we're going to just jump right into Mary's work. I could talk some about it, but I'd be repeating Mary. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I cannot see you when we're playing the video, but if you're having any trouble hearing it, just like type a chat and I'll be able to see that and follow that. But I think we're going to be able to do this just fine. I'm going to pause the... I know that got a little loud and crazy for a minute, and a couple of people have asked me if I can mute my mic. But the challenge is when I mute my mic, it mutes the video. So I also can't use a headset because it won't go through the headset. So it's hopefully it's a quick family meal. So anyway, let's talk about betrayal and frustration and resentment, right? On a different scale than Mary's story that she was just sharing. But is there a place in your life that you can consider letting go of the lesser in order to receive a greater? Is there a place in your life that you can surrender even frustration about tonight's class and the noise in the background, right? That we can just surrender into that and go, I know I've got the materials. I know we're hearing this. I know that we're having the experience, and there's a greater opportunity here. The greater opportunity here might be, button that's been pushed up about the mother that's yelling at the kids, maybe, perhaps, all kinds of things. But I also wanted to just like shift gears from that and just mention Mary's story about the baseball. I've never thought about the law of sacrifice in terms of baseball, right? You have to often, or I'm not a baseball player, but you sacrifice the hit in order to get the run. So it's like that. If there's something coming up that looks like there's a sacrifice, maybe there's a bigger good. Maybe there's a hit coming down the road. So think of a moment that you might have an unforgiveness, that you might have been carrying an unforgiveness, or something that you think you've forgiven has come back up around. And feel into how that feels. Like it's contracted, right? Like I can go right back into resentment over things in the past. But now consider, lay that down, turn around, and recall a time where you had a complete forgiveness and life opened up. Just think about that for a moment. I'm not going to have you share because I'm not able to hear you, but if you've had that experience, type it in the chat. Not the whole story. Type a couple of sentences, like the magic that happened in that release, or the surprise that came when you realized you'd forgiven. And they're about to get their meal, so we're going to try again. We're going to keep going.
Real forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about us. And there's a kind of resurrective moment that we find in true forgiveness. It lifts us up out of ourselves, out of our littleness. One of the most formidable tasks we are ever asked to accomplish is to take betrayal and turn it into something better. And in this lifetime, betrayal is something that happens in every single one of our lives. A friend betrays us. Someone steals our idea at work, or a business goes out of business and we lose our job and we feel betrayed of the number of years we gave there, and there's no longer that job. Or we find ourselves as the one who betrayed a friendship. We broke a confidence. We did something. Betrayal has within it the element of transformation. But because it has the element, it doesn't mean it will be used that way. It can be turned into bitterness that lasts decades. Most of us know someone, perhaps even a family member, got their feelings hurt or something occurred, and what they did with that occurrence was decades of resentment, decades of perhaps a form of punishment where they don't speak to the other person. And because that's all they know to do. Forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. True and authentic forgiveness, it has everything to do with ourselves. Because true forgiveness is self-forgiveness. It's a change in me that removes a block to my awareness of love's presence. And being right, even if we're right in the situation, it doesn't have anything to do with practicing or not practicing forgiveness. Being right doesn't bring peace. Being right doesn't open the door to abundance. And often, that sense of righteousness, thinking that we're right, only creates walls and distance. So I'll tell you a story about a time in my life when I learned some self-forgiveness. Because as I said, forgiveness is not just for others, it's for ourselves. And before I tell you this story, I just want to say, there's a temptation, I think, at times to think, well, I've forgiven, and I just can't make it go away. Here's my belief, after many, many years of working with this principle, is that forgiveness is a process. That in sort of the major things that have happened in our lives, we forgive as best we can, and we go along, and then some other piece of it rises up. It doesn't mean the forgiveness work we did before didn't take. It means it took as long as it could last till we found another layer of ourselves, and now a new level of mastery to bring to bear to authentic and deeper layers of forgiveness, giving for a perception that's more empowering than the perception we've been holding. But that only occurs when we begin to recognize that the perception we've been holding is actually limiting to us. And that means we've actually grown, because now we can see that that perception is actually limiting. So it's a process of growth and expansion as we move up the ladder of awareness in our journey. So in my young years as a minister, I had gone to college and I'd gone to seminary, and now I'm an ordained minister. I'm 26, 27. I'm getting into my graduate school or my master's degree in counseling psychology, and a woman that I went to undergraduate school with named Jill. And Jill was single for a long time, and then in her later 20s, she met Ray. They fell in love with each other, and they started coming around, and Ray and Jill got married. And I performed their marriage ceremony. And Jill and Ray were very, very happy for a few years. And maybe 8-10 years later, Jill and Ray fell upon hard times between them. And all the things that they tried to do didn't work, and finally they separated. And they divorced. About 6 months later, Ray came, and he had found someone new that he was absolutely head over heels in love with. And he asked me if I would do their wedding. And I said, I'm a minister, they want to get married. I said, okay, of course, I'll perform your wedding service. So I performed the wedding service. 3 weeks later or 2 weeks later, when Jill found out that I had performed the wedding service for Ray and his new wife, she was livid with me. She was very hurt by that. How dare you perform his wedding service? I mean, you were my friend first, and now you're performing a wedding service for him? And I remember kind of gasping for words, trying to say, well, I'm a minister. I'm not supposed to be the one to judge whether he should get married or not. That's his life. I'm in service of that's what I do. I help people have a life they love living. And she was just so upset with me. Nothing I said, when I begged for forgiveness, she had no interest in ever being friends with me again. And that wasn't a 6-week or a 6 year, this has been decades now. And she never wanted to be friends with me again. That was a very important lesson for me on several fronts. One is my first, as far as I developed at that point, my first response was I felt bad that I had hurt my friend and tried to apologize, and she wouldn't accept the apology. Then I kind of thought, well, she's the one who's got this problem. I mean, this is really, I didn't do anything. And then later as time went on, and I would notice that it would still bother me. I would say, okay, Mary, what's this? This didn't happen to you. It happened with you. Must be a greater lesson here because it's still bothering you that she doesn't want to be friends with you. What lesson have you not yet received? What greater lesson is there here for you? And I just kept inviting that revelation to come into my life, that awareness to expand in me. And over time, I began to see it was true that I did not have a right to judge whether Ray should get married again. It was true that I did not have the right, or I didn't even want to be the person who would judge him or decide if he should get married again or not. But I knew deep down, if I had been honest with myself, that when he asked me to perform the wedding, that I had a part of me going, it doesn't feel right for you to do this with your friendship with Jill. If I had been really true to all of myself, I would have paid attention to that in myself. I overrode that. I denied that. I pushed it to the side. And I learned out of that I didn't have a right to judge him, but I did have a right to decide for myself what I was going to be part of and what I wasn't going to be part of. Over time, when I think of Jill, I wish her well. When I think of Jill, I'm grateful for the years of active friendship, and I'm grateful for the years of inactive friendship and the gift that gave me as well. When I think of her, I only feel that her existence in this world has always been a gift to me. And I walked on. I didn't keep carrying that club and beating myself up for a lack of awareness I had at that moment in my life. Where in your life do you suppose that you're still carrying something that if you were to sacrifice the guilt and sacrifice the shame and sacrifice the blame, that it might open up some energy that could actually move towards the direction of what it is that you're seeking to bring forth? This is the value of authentic forgiveness. It frees a block in us, opens us up to receiving, and then turning that receiving into greater energy in the forms of things that matter to us. When Matt, my son, was a little boy, maybe 3, 4, somewhere in there, I remember one day when I said, come on, Matt, we're getting ready for bed. It's time to go. Let's go brush your teeth. And I remember him going, how many times do I have to keep brushing my teeth? I brushed my teeth. We brushed my teeth before. I brushed it the day before, the day before. I mean, how long does this go on? And I said, Matt, it's going to go on for the rest of your life. The rest of my life, I'm going to have to brush my teeth? I think that's perhaps how the disciples felt when they said to Jesus, how long does this forgiveness thing go on? How long am I going to have to keep forgiving? And I think at that level of awareness, he laughed as well and said, this is spiritual hygiene. The grit and grime of the day gets on your teeth. Guess what? The grit and the grime of humanness, of the human experience, gets on our energy as well. So forgiveness.
There's so much richness in this lesson. I really hope that you all go back sooner than later, even tonight, and listen to the audios again, because I know it's not perfect. But I think about really those places that she was just talking about with the Dalai Lama, those sacred friends, right? Those sacred opportunities. We don't grow, really. We don't stretch, really. We don't strive, really, when things are really going easy. Think about it. In the times when life is like really easy, it's like we're not even praying that much typically. We're not even like stretching and growing and grappling. But yet, when we get in those tough times, that's where our growth potential really exponentiates, or however you want to say that word. I think about the places that I am still working on forgiveness. And, some are really, really healed, and some still come up, they still come up periodically. And what can I do in any given moment to lean into that, to lean into what is the deeper lesson? Where is it, like Mary talks about with her friend Jill? Where was her personal responsibility in what she did or didn't do? Not about blame or shame, right? Because that's the law of sacrifice, letting go of that. But really leaning into is there a deeper lesson for me? And if there is, let me see it, let me get it. And beginning to let go, beginning to see the differences. I love how the Dalai Lama distinguishes between the Chinese people and the Chinese government. We could probably use that in our own world right now, right? The difference between the people as people and the government as a structure. Sophia says, yeah, and that's how we transform. It is absolutely how we transform the world. So where in your life, another just personal contemplation, do you still carry a burden of unforgiveness? Remembering that forgiveness isn't about the other person. It is freeing ourselves to have more access to love. Let me just check the chat. I saw Sophia's. Yeah, awesome. All right, we're going to go right into the last video, and then we'll be able to open up the mics. I'm sure that family will be gone by then, even though there's, it is. Anyway, here we go.
So I'll share a story with you about my mentor learning the same practice of forgiveness. But know this, forgiveness is not something we just do once. When Jesus was asked that question, how many times? They said 7 times? He said, no, not 7 times, 70 times 7, meaning this multiplication effect of on a daily basis, noticing what's contractive, noticing what's expansive, noticing what thought I have about someone that's contractive. What's another way to see this? What's another way I can feel about this? This is forgiveness as a living process where we notice our contractive thinking. And we notice that brings, it can't do anything else but bring us the fruit of the seed that it is. Plant carrots, you're going to get carrots, not corn. Plant corn, you're going to get corn, not petunias. Plant resentment, plant blame, plant shame, and they bring all the fruits of those energies. And not one of us wants to expand or grow our lives inside that field. It's toxic. My mentor, Jack Bullen, and I mentioned that he only mentored 3 people. He taught lots and lots of people, wonderful teacher. He mentored Les Brown, he mentored Wayne Dyer, and he mentored Mary Morrissey. And he was a taskmaster. He was, times I would say he would speak to me with compassionate disgust if he heard me practicing living outside the way these laws work. And he would remind me again and again, I can't make it work your way. I can't even make it work my way, but I can show you how it works, and I'm not going to support you in doing anything that's outside how it works, because it just doesn't work. I was leading a retreat one time years ago, and a woman came up to me as I was heading into the afternoon, and she said, I want to talk to you. I'm Jack Boland's niece. And I'll read a portion of this as I share this story, so I get the detail accurate. And then she said, I don't know much about my uncle because there was a divorce. I don't know much about Uncle Jack because there was a divorce in my family. But I heard that there had been a difficult time between my Uncle Jack and Uncle Garnet. And I was wondering if you knew anything about that, because somebody told me that Uncle Jack had told you that story. And I said, well, I not only know that story, I wrote about that story in my first book, because it was one of Jack's great stories about forgiveness. Jack had been in a business deal with his brother-in-law. And Jack had invested, this is before Jack went into the ministry, but Jack was already in the 12-step program. Jack had invested everything that he had in this business with his brother-in-law. And Jack was so diligent in practicing his spiritual practice, working with his business partner, who was his brother-in-law, pouring his heart, working into that. Garnet was managing the money. Jack was in the sales department. The two of them building business together. Garnet was taking care of the finances, doing all this. Jack was out selling, doing this and that, and growing the business. And what happened was Jack came upon the awareness. He bumped into somebody who knew about a business Garnet had doing the same thing, but it was a separate business from the business he was doing with Jack, and that he was funneling not only business deals over to the private business that he had by himself, he was actually also moving money from the business with Jack and Garnet over into his private business. By the time Jack came upon it, the business had so little revenue left in it that Garnet said, well, we're going to have to bankrupt this business. Garnet did not know that Jack knew about the separate business. Jack was extremely challenged. He was angry. He was hurt. He was mad. He was accusatory. He blamed. He tried to shame Garnet into getting the money back, and Garnet was unmovable. And short of charging him with theft or taking him to court, those were the only two remedies Jack Boland could come upon. And so Jack Boland walked away from the whole thing. And he kept going to his 12-step practice, but every time he thought of Garnet, he felt resentful. And over time, Jack thought less and less about Garnet, but he went on and he became a minister, and he was growing his own ministry. And he moved to Florida, where he grew a ministry, and then he moved to Detroit. But over time, as Jack did more and more of his own spiritual practice, he realized his resentment was not hurting Garnet. His resentment did nothing to Garnet. His resentment was doing something to him. And he had a challenge with it because there was nothing about him that liked Garnet anymore. There was nothing about him, about Garnet, that deserved forgiveness. And as Jack did the work, he realized that it had nothing to do with whether or not Garnet deserved the forgiveness. It had everything to do with the life Jack wanted to live, and the minister he wanted to be, and the difference maker he wanted to be. And that with that ball and chain on his leg, he would never have the freedom to be what he really wanted to be and do. And so he looked for a way to practice a forgiveness practice that would help free him from the constraint that he felt every time he thought about Garnet. Now, you may have somebody in your life that you've wanted to forgive and you've tried to forgive, or a situation that you've tried to forgive, and every time you think about it, there's this constraint. So this is what Jack found, and because he practiced it on a regular, repeated basis, it worked for him. Jack noticed that every time he saw Garnet's face on the screen of his mind, he felt this contractive energy, and he could get riled up easily in thinking about Garnet. But every time he thought about his little boy, Jack's little boy, all he felt was love and expansion. And so Jack began a forgiveness practice where he would think about his little boy, think and let his heart get big, 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 and thinking about his little boy, and then just gently remove the picture of the little boy and slip in the picture of Garnet. The energy would go down. But he believed that with practice, he could sustain that good feeling a little longer and begin to see Garnet as a child of God who did the best he knew at the time, something Jack would never understand. And he removed the requirement that he had carried for the need to understand why Garnet would do that, for the need to have any understanding of how Garnet could ever do that in the land of business or family. And he said it took about a year for him to be able to really be able to think of Garnet with energy of unconditional love, not a desire to hang out with Garnet again, not a desire to tell him to his face, I've forgiven you, just a desire to have peace in his own mind and peace in his own soul. And he said it wasn't something he did all the time, but it was something he did on a regular, repeated basis. And then he had a speaking engagement that took him back to the town where all this had occurred. And as he was driving the rental car over to the venue where he would be speaking, it was on a 4-lane highway, he came up to a stoplight. And this big, beautiful, in the day with the big fins on those cars, a big, beautiful car drove up next to him, a convertible with the top down, music blaring, and he glanced over, and it's Garnet. And Jack said, I knew I had full forgiveness when I saw the big car. I saw him dressed to the nines singing a song at the wheel of this big, fancy car. And I thought, good for him. Good for him. And Jack's eyes would fill with tears when he would tell this story. And I would always think, good for you, Jack, good for you. Now, there is a power in each one of us that's greater than anything that's ever happened in our lives or to us. One of the ways of forgiving that's helped me over time, because I believe every single one of us is worthy of what forgiveness brings. But we have to apply the law of sacrifice here. Because there's something almost, at times, if we're coming from a lower part of ourselves, almost delicious in rehashing it, kind of swirling it around our mouth like one more time. And we can find 100 people who would agree with us about how awful it was and have those conversations that lead to victimhood again and again, but they don't take us where we want to go. And victimhood and your dream are not on the same frequency. any more than CNN and Discovery, Home and Garden, Romance, whatever it is you're dreaming, they're not on the same frequency. Sacrifice is about letting go of the lesser in order to experience the greater. One of the ways that has helped me is the prayer that actually does come out of Tibetan Buddhism, called the prayer of loving kindness. And you think, first now, think of someone you do love easily. Think of someone you love easily. Bring them to mind. It could be a child, could be a friend, could be a spouse, could be a parent, could be anyone you choose, someone you love easily. And think these words and feel these feelings as I say these words to you, but bring them to mind. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May all things work together for good in your life. May you walk in peace and happiness. Feel that. Now, bring to mind someone that's difficult for you, someone with whom there's been a challenge. And bring them right to the center of your mind's eye. And as best you can, sustain and hold and share the same energy. But whatever you can, do it. May you be peaceful. May you be happy. May all things work together for good in your life. May your walk be peaceful and your days be happy. And you keep repeating that and repeating that. Wishing well others, wishing well those sacred friends that you have. And then put yourself in the picture. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May all things work together for good in my life. May I walk in the ways of peace. And may my days be happy. And when we start speaking those words and resonating with those words, it's almost as if a balm comes over us, a healing balm that washes away some of the dregs of the journey. It is like washing our face in the morning and brushing our teeth. Forgiveness is a clean start, a fresh start in this moment. It's not something we do once, it's something we do again and again and again. And it does require the letting go in order to grab a hold of what takes us to the next. So I have a special reading that I want to share with you as we close out this class. The title of this writing is The Trapeze. It's written by Dana and Perry. So we're going to put ourselves inside this writing. Sometimes I feel that my life is a series of trapeze swings. I'm either hanging onto the trapeze bar, swinging along, or for a few moments in my life, I'm hurtling across the space between trapeze bars. But most of the time, I spend my life hanging on for dear life to my trapeze bar, the one I have for the moment that carries me along in a certain steady rate of swing. And I have the feeling that I'm in control of my life. I know most of the right questions and even some of the right answers. But once in a while, as I'm merrily or not so merrily swinging along, I look out ahead of me. I look out ahead of me in the distance, and what do I see? I see another trapeze bar swinging toward me. It's empty. And I know in that place in me that knows that this new trapeze bar has my name on it. It's my next step. It's my aliveness coming to get me. And in my heart of hearts, I know that for me to grow, I have to release my grip on the present well-known bar to move on to the next one. Now, each time this happens, I pray that I won't have to grab the new one. But in my knowing place, I know that I must totally release my grasp on the old bar, and for some moment in time, I must hurtle across space before I grab onto the new bar. And each time, I'm filled with terror. It doesn't matter that in all my previous hurdles across the void of knowing, I have always made it. Each time, I'm afraid that I will miss, that I'll be crushed on the unseen rocks at the bottom of the chasm between the bars, but I do it anyway. Maybe this is the essence of what the mystics call the faith experience. No guarantees, no net, no insurance policy. You do it anyway because somehow to keep hanging on to that old bar is no longer on the list of life-giving alternatives. And so, for an eternity that can last a microsecond or 1,000 lifetimes, I soar across the dark void. The past is gone, the future is not yet here. It's called transition. And I have come to believe that this is the only place that real change happens. I mean, real change, not that pseudo change that only lasts until my old buttons get pushed one more time. And I have noticed in our culture that this transition zone is often looked upon as a no thing, as a no place between places. Sure, the old trapeze bar was real, and the new one coming towards me, well, I hope that's real too, but the void in between? That's just a scary, confusing, disorienting nowhere that must be gotten through as fast and as unconsciously as possible. What a waste. What a waste. I have a sneaking suspicion that the transition zone is the only real thing, and that the bars are illusions we dream up to avoid the void where real change occurs. Now, whether or not my hunch is true, it remains that the transition zones in our life are incredibly rich places. They should be honored, even savored. And with all the pain and fear and feelings of being out of control that can accompany transition, these are still the most alive, growth-filled, passionate, expansive moments in our lives. And so, the transformation of fear may have nothing to do with getting rid of fear or having fear go away, but rather giving ourselves permission to hang out in the transition between trapeze bars, transforming our need to just grab onto that next bar is allowing ourselves to dwell in the only place where real change can happen. It can be terrifying. It can also be enlightening in the true sense of the word. Hurtling through the void, we may just learn that all along we have always known how to fly. So as you practice forgiveness this week and the law of sacrifice and letting go of some of the old thinking that perhaps we've held on to, and open up to thoughts and ways of being with things that have happened in our life that we're not yet clear about how to bring all of that transformation. We're still willing to let go of the lesser in order to experience and be lifted up in the greater. Have a great week.
Amazing. Amazing.
So much for best laid plans. So that trapeze, I did a trapeze experience. It's one of my great sort of signature stories. And there is something about that gap that I experienced on the trapeze. Most of my trapeze story has to do with fear about getting up on the platform and jumping off the platform. And there's a whole great story about that. I'm not going to share it here, but in that gap, right, in that gap between, and I didn't grab another bar, but I was caught by another person, so I had to let go and was caught in that, and then you let go and you do this foot down. It's fabulous. But in that gap, you actually are flying, and in that gap, you actually are in a void. And so when we are up-leveling our lives, it is not always baby steps. It is not always guaranteed. But sometimes we have to take that risk, and sometimes we have to let go of that which is safe or familiar or comfortable or uncomfortable in order to soar. It's like stepping out of a confinement and going. Now, it's not always, you have to know in your soul, and the fear of letting go of that trapeze or that fear of taking that leap when it's right is a very different fear. It's a fear that says, holy cow, spirit, you have me, compared to a fear that's like, a whiny kind of resentment, past, that kind of fear. It's a very different feeling. So if you're coming up to an edge where you feel like you have to take a leap or you're being called to take a leap, get support, reach out, call me, text me, let me know how I can support you. And if you're in that void right now, know that taking action will be the key to move through it. So I talked a lot about Dr. Joe Dispenza, and because I've been studying with him this past year, and he talks about that void. In fact, in his meditations that I often do, he invites you to go to the place of no one, no thing, no body, no time, no space, where we're really entering the void. And he says to linger in the unknown for as long as you can. Linger in the unknown. If you want to manifest something new or you want to experience something new, linger in the unknown. So that's something that you can bring into your own personal, your own meditations or your own contemplations right now. Like, what if I didn't know anything? It wipes the slate clean. It clears you from operating out of the past, because we make our choices, based on the past. Well, I can't do that, or I have to do that because of this unconscious thing. So play in that, feeling what it feels like to not know, feeling what it feels like to enter into that void, because it is the void that is the quantum field, that is the infinite, the place of the infinite possibilities. So wanted to just speak into both of those things. Let me go grab our tithing link, and we'll move into that in just a moment here. Let me copy it here. Copy. It is now in the chat. If you tithed during our 2-week break over Christmas and New Year's, thank you very much. We particularly appreciate that. If you did not, you have the opportunity to catch up today. And of course, the requirement is to tithe each week that we have the class. But I encourage you to just tithe throughout the course and the program because of the energy of the container. Spirit can only do through you. Spirit can only do what it can do through you. Like, Spirit's not going to come out and give you something. It's like Spirit moves through you. So your action of tithing, 10% of all that you receive, is something that Spirit can't do for you. Spirit can't tithe for you. But as you tithe, when you choose to take that action, fulfill that commitment, you are fulfilling your part and thus making yourself available for Spirit to work through you in ways you might never even have thought possible. So even if tithing is a stretch, and it often is, even if it's like, oh my God, we've had 2 weeks break and now she wants me to tithe on, it's like, it's that risk, right? And it's that commitment, because as long as we're on our growing edge, we're growing. If we sink back into our comfort zone, we sink back into the familiar, we sink back into what we've always got. But we're in this course because we want something more, we want something different. So as you prepare your tithe and you click that link and say, with a grateful heart,
With a grateful heart,
and receive abundance. With a grateful heart, give freely, receive abundantly. And one more time together. With a grateful heart, I give freely, receive abundantly. And so it is. Take a moment and go ahead and click that link, even if you don't complete it all the way through. Get it open on your screen. We'll take just a couple of moments here for that. as you are doing that, as you complete that, want to open, it's a little bit quieter in here now, I think. I just want to open the field for insights, ahas, questions. What's your takeaway from tonight's material? Anybody that wants to share, just go ahead and unmute yourselves. Sally, did you want to share?
She's muted.
Oh, we keep doing it. Can you unmute yourself there?
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, every time I go to the PayPal line, link, I always have trouble getting back into the Zoom thing. So I've been like, where are they? Where are they? So I guess I had to share that I'm really glad to be back. And I have so many notes here in front of me. One of my goals for this week will be making some cohesive structure out of these notes and continuing to review the homework and trying not to get bogged down in the little bit of self-judgment that I've got going on right now. Just stay focused on the beam or the trapeze bar ahead, focus on the goal rather than the drop down under me.
Right.
Yeah, so I kind of know what to do. It's just that right now I'm feeling a lot of fatigue and knowing it's okay.
Yeah, one of Mary's other courses, and I know you know this, but I'm saying it for everybody else or those who haven't heard it. It's like if you don't have the dream or the vision or the goal that's out further in front of you, it's easy to get distracted with all this stuff coming at you. But when you have that, it becomes a bridge.
Yes.
You don't have to look down, and you navigate through all the stuff coming at you, but it doesn't have to consume you because there's a bigger reason. It's like you can get the house clean a lot easier when company's coming than you can when no company's coming, or at least I can, right? Okay. It's kind of like that. It's like having a bigger dream, a bigger idea, a bigger intention. So I'm seeing that for you. And as you get really more clear about what that is, all this other stuff will fall into place. And stay in action. Absolutely stay in action.
I am.
Awesome. Nadia says, be open to not knowing before you take a step. Practice continuous forgiveness. Oh yeah, continuous forgiveness and self-forgiveness too, right? When we go into judgment or blame or shame or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks. Leila, Janelle, or Sophia?
Mine will be working on, sorry, Janelle. Working on the anger that I felt at work last month, and not holding on to it as the anger. I need to step back and look at it as the learning experience, but I've been thinking of it as her learning experience, not necessarily mine. And so I need to work on the inside of me, especially so that I'm not angry all the time. That gets me nowhere. And then there's the resentment that's building up on it, and then holding me back from my dreams because I feel that she's holding me back from my dreams, and that's not true. So I have.
So, often when we have anger, it is often fuel to take action that has to do with inner boundaries and taking care of ourselves. Not always, but often anger can be fuel to say, you know what, no more of this. And it's not so much about the outer, but it is about, as you say, it's about like right here. And when you clear right here, then you can take action out there rather than taking action out there in the anger, right? Like what's the anger? What am I seeing here? Where am I not taking care of myself? Where am I not having good boundaries? Where am I being pushed? So that I can say internally, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. Where's the lesson? Where's the opportunity for growth?
And those are words that I have been saying. It's like, no, I swore I wasn't going to do this part again. This isn't mine. So, and I'm doing it. And no, I'm not going to do this anymore.
And
I'm not going to play that.
And then holding to your no, right?
Yes.
Like I've been with grandkids today, and part of the reason I'm in McDonald's is because the mother of the grandkids was having whatever she was having one of her days, so I couldn't be in her house to do, right? So, but it's like I can let that, so the grandkids, you say, Micah, no more. And then you go, okay, well, one more time. That's a boundary issue. Like when you say, I'm not doing it anymore, and then you do it anyway, that's fuel for more anger. So that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So negotiating that appropriately and holding to your word.
I still need to calm down some more first before I start talking to somebody else.
Probably true. So do some, screaming into the pillow, do some, get out there and run or whatever, let the anger move through your physical body because it is an energy that gets trapped, right? So if you can do something physical to begin to move that, then you can sort through the mental and emotional aspects of it.
Right.
Awesome. Okay.
No, I'm done now.
Space for you to navigate that with amazing results.
Thank you.
Janelle.
The trapeze story was very interesting to me because right now in my life I am.
Can you lean into your speaker just a little bit further? Thank you.
Yeah. In my life right now, I'm in a place that's in between, and I've been becoming, and so it's just a good reminder to appreciate and enjoy and see what's in that in between time for me, and that it's not. It doesn't have to be something that I have to get over with and get on to.
Right, and there's divine timing too. I mean, there's our intention and sometimes there is that gap, and sometimes it's really, really rich, and sometimes we want to move through it faster or slower. But there's a divine timing if you can be in the flow of all of it. Awesome, Sophia.
Hello.
Hello.
Sacrifice is an interesting concept in terms if we do it all the time. It's a continuous process. I don't think we recognize it because if I choose a salad over a cheeseburger or whatever, that's a sacrifice in essence of the cheeseburger for greater good, which is my health. When we choose to turn off the television and read a book instead of watching a show that lowers our vibration, it's a sacrifice of one thing to gain the other. And I did enjoy her baseball reference also, and I did play baseball a lot growing up and into adulthood, and I love the game. So boy, if I could still do a trapeze thing, I would. I did, however, jump out of a plane 3 times, and there is that moment, as you push, especially the first time, pushing away and not knowing whether or not that shoe is going to open. That's an interesting place to be, and to trust and to know that there's always going to be the chute opening. So that's it for now.
Awesome. Thank you. And Nadia, we got yours in the chat. If there's anything else you want to add, although we weren't able to hear you before, you can try again. And I know Russ had to jump off because he's got another class that's starting, one of his seminary classes. So, all right. We're going to call it good for tonight. The homework, obviously, is to listen to the audios, to read the chapters in the book, to get into your workbooks and your guidebooks. There's fabulous material there. And remember, if you haven't gotten into it, at the end of the workbook is a whole section called Charting Your Course, which is another whole new aspect of getting really specific in one specific dream and taking it all the way down into goals. So there's lots of material there. I will be around until Monday. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to connect with me, do that by Monday. And then I'm on a cruise ship for 11 days, back off on the 25th. I'm very excited about that. We are in Louisiana. We're headed out of here in the morning to get into Florida, and I'll be speaking on the National Book Tour in Orlando on Sunday, on this Sunday. So that kicks off. It's a very big week for us, and very excited to be able to share aspects of that with you all. So I look forward to seeing you again. And on the 29th, I'll send you an email just prior to that to remind you, keep up your tithing, keep up your commitments to being in the practices. And again, feel free to reach out at any time.
Okay.
Closing
All right.
comments?
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.